This is the reason why your narcissistic husband doesn't want sex with you. Have you ever pondered why narcissistic husbands withdraw from their wives' sex and affection? As a therapist who has worked with female clients for the past 5 years, I have acquired a deeper understanding of this issue. Unintentionally, the majority of my clients are female, which has helped me acquire a better understanding of narcissistic husbands and men from a woman's perspective. I have identified 4 primary reasons why narcissistic husbands withhold sex and affection from their wives based on my experience. In this article, I will list these reasons in reverse order, commencing with the least important and concluding with the most important. Before I proceed, I would like to extend my support to anyone who may be having difficulty with this issue. I'm available for telephone or video call one-on-one consultations, and I also offer a coaching program to those who are interested. The Royal Community is a group of individuals who hold each other accountable and offer encouragement to those who are attempting to escape toxic relationships. Please review the information in the description section if you are interested in joining our community or learning more about our programs. Now return to the subject at hand. It is unfathomable that narcissistic husbands would deny their spouses sex, as this goes against all expectations of a husband. In fact, intimacy is frequently viewed as the most important aspect of a marriage. In my experience, there are, however, valid explanations for why this occurs. The primary motivation for a male to get married is to have a partner to share intimacy with, without the need to engage in extramarital affairs. This is even mentioned as one of the primary purposes of marriage in the Bible. According to Paul, marriage helps extinguish the flames of lust, allowing one to satiate their desires in a secure, committed relationship. It is difficult to comprehend why a husband would reject his wife's advances, particularly if she is ready and willing to be intimate. It is heartbreaking to witness this situation, and I have identified 4 potential causes, with number 4 being the least likely. Performance issues, also known as erectile dysfunction, can be a valid cause for a lack of intimacy, but they are not a trait of a narcissistic abuser. However, if they are married to a narcissist, their arrogance and conceit may prevent them from seeking assistance for this problem. They would prefer to deny their wife affection and concentrate on other aspects of their lives, such as money, housing, and projects. As it would be an admission of frailty, they refuse to seek medical assistance or alter their lifestyle to treat their condition. They act as if they have lost interest in their wife and display no affection or sexual desire. It is very disheartening to encounter such circumstances. It is uncommon, but it does occur, and what's even more fascinating is that many of the wives I've spoken with are unconcerned about the performance aspect. They merely desire some affection from their husbands, regardless of how brief the encounter. Sadly, due to their narcissistic tendencies, these men refuse to accommodate their partner's needs and desires. They would rather deny them all affection if they cannot be their finest selves. This type of conduct can be extremely harmful, leaving spouses feeling confused and rejected. However, this is not the most common cause of such behavior, as it can typically be remedied through a variety of options. The third reason I've encountered occurs more frequently, but not as frequently as the first. The third cause is adultery. When a spouse cheats on his wife, he may become sexually and emotionally distant from her. In this context, cheating is not limited to having an affair or a concubine. It also includes frequent visits to brothels or strip clubs. As it leads to a decline in intimacy and affection, this behavior can be the beginning of the end for a marriage. It also causes the wife to become inquisitive and can lead to the discovery of the husband's adultery, which is extremely damaging. In other words, the husband is pursuing satisfaction elsewhere. This is not typically a reason for a spouse to reject his wife sexually, so it is ranked as the third most common reason. This type of behavior originates primarily from a narcissistic mentality of never being satisfied and a highly driven sex life. In order to maintain their narcissistic tendencies, they must perpetually engage in sexual activity. It is not uncommon for these people to frequent strip clubs, Asian massage parlors, and even engage prostitutes. They may even engage in extramarital affairs while sexually active with their spouses. Consequently, this is not the most common explanation I hear, as these individuals will have intercourse with anyone, anywhere. Nevertheless, some narcissistic spouses continue to distance themselves from their wives for this reason. This brings us to the second point, which is hazardous and detrimental to women. This entails a husband coming out as homosexual, which is one of the most deceitful and malevolent things I've ever encountered. The reason I'm addressing the spouse is not because he is homosexual, but rather because he lied from the beginning about his true sexual orientation and forced a woman into a marriage she believed was founded on love. In order to satisfy their family, culture, profession, or society, this frequently results in the decision to start a family. 10 to 15 years later, the husband comes out as homosexual and departs to pursue his desires. This is devastating for many of the women I've coached who were unaware of what was occurring. Ironically, some women claim they had always suspected something was awry. As a one-on-one coach, I always recommend listening to your instincts and keeping an eye out for warning signs. Your intuition is communicating with you for a purpose. Especially when it comes to marriage, it's essential to look deeper into things. Keeping secrets and concealing one's true identity can result in long-term devastation and harm. I believe it is one of the most malevolent and abusive actions a person can take, particularly if they are a narcissist. It's not about being homosexual. It's about being dishonest from the start. Creating a family under false pretenses is unjust to all involved parties. It is a promise to build an existence together, not to conceal one's true identity. It can also cause issues for the spouse and children. This is the second most malicious reason I've observed for narcissistic spouses to withdraw from physical intimacy and affection. The leading explanation I've discovered is even more baffling. It has nothing to do with adultery, homosexuality, or performance issues. It concerns control. When a wife desires sex and affection, it poses a threat to a narcissistic, control-hungry spouse. Even though they desire intercourse, they will deny themselves because their wife does not. It is similar to Al Bundy from the television program Married with Children, who frequently rejected his wife Peg's advances. This behavior is unique to narcissistic personalities, and the wife is in a very peculiar situation. I've heard of women who have tried everything to have sex with their husbands, including cooking in an apron or standing naked when he comes home from work, but it never works. Contrary to expectations, the fact that the wife initiates sex becomes a turn-off for the narcissistic spouse. Most men would love to return home to a wife who is eager to have sex, but for a narcissistic husband, this poses a control threat. Why? Because the wife's sexual pleasure undermines the narcissist's control. It's similar to how a narcissist might devalue something that makes you happy, such as your favorite clothing or music, because your happiness and freedom of expression pose a threat to their control over you. In the same manner, a narcissistic husband's control over his wife is threatened by his wife's desire for sexual activity. If the spouse permits the wife to have what she desires, she becomes his equal and assumes control. Because of this, a narcissistic spouse will frequently pursue his wife when she loses interest in him. This is how you can tell that control is paramount. In the early stages of a relationship, sex is typically enjoyable, because the narcissistic partner is still in charge and receiving what they want. Perhaps you can now understand why having sex with a narcissistic man at the outset of a relationship is so appealing. This is due to the fact that it is forbidden in early phases. At the beginning of a relationship, women are typically more hesitant than men, and a narcissistically abusive person thrives on violating these boundaries. This is where they obtain their supplies. It is not about affection or sexual activity itself. It is not about making love or celebrating. It involves resisting the person's desires, allowing them to feel dominant in the situation. This behavior persists following marriage. A narcissistic spouse will frequently deny his wife sex when she desires it because he must resist her desires to maintain control. Then, when she says she doesn't want it, he knocks on the door to claim ownership. All of these situations are extremely alarming. Unfortunately, you cannot alter a narcissistic husband or man with whom you are interacting. You must ultimately determine whether you wish to confront the difficulties and seek counseling. However, their controlling nature and narcissism are characteristics of their character and nature, respectively. There is no way to alter it. If you live with someone who is constantly competitive and needs to be in charge of everything, including intimacy and affection, you can expect to be subjected to their games for the rest of your life. As a non-denominational Christian, it is not my responsibility to advise anyone to get a divorce. However, it is heartbreaking to see people suffer in relationships where continual games are played, as marriage is not meant to be a game. Equally yoked refers to the importance of finding a life companion, someone to walk side by side, shoulder to shoulder. If any of these issues exist in your marriage, you are unequally yoked. Clearly, you and your companion are not standing shoulder to shoulder. You may hear messages at church encouraging you to continue loving and fighting for your relationship, but this can be compared to the medical industry keeping you ill in order to sell you medication. Unfortunately, churches can also keep you in situations where you feel ill, impoverished, and suffering so that you will return to the altar and pray for relief. Managing these challenges can be difficult, but know that I'm here to assist you. You can access chat counseling to assist with narcissistic trauma and live a better life for $1 per week in the description box below. However, it is currently only available to us. However, please indicate in the remarks where you would like this feature to be available. If a country receives numerous requests, we are delighted to fulfill them. This concludes the video for today. Thank you for viewing.